Stephen Loam, lifestyle medicine cardiologist. I wanted to talk about obesity and weight loss a little bit and take a practical approach, not get too sciencey on you, but let you know why it is that we recommend that people consume a plant-based diet that's low in fat. So let's get right into it. This is really a personal thing for me. This is me 5 years ago, nearly 100 pounds heavier, following the standard American diet, well on my way to the standard American diseases, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancers, all these things. I was feeling lousy, having so many chronic medical issues, and I just had my own aha moment that I needed to make a change. And I was getting frustrated at the same time, practicing as a cardiologist, pushing pills on people. They didn't like the pills, they had side effects, they cost money, and ultimately, even if I gave them all the right pills, they might still have a heart attack or a stroke, need a bypass surgery or a stent. And so when I saw my whole family, my sister being 450 pounds, my parents 300 pounds, myself 260, this is what I thought. Oh, we're just lazy. It's a lack of exercise, right? It's a big misconception. It's not diabetes, heart disease, and obesity that runs in my family. No one runs in my family. Nobody's exercising. That's why, right? So, of course, what do? I say thinking exercise is the key. I made so many mistakes, like so many people do when they're trying to recapture their health and lose weight. I thought exercise was the key. I signed up for a marathon. I read the USDA dietary guidelines, eating chicken, fish, low-fat dairy, and olive oil, but I still consumed unhealthy foods in moderation. Yeah, I reduced them quite a bit, but I didn't give them up. So here are all the mistakes I made. Exercise is not the key to weight loss. It's maybe 20% of it, and it's important to stay active, but it's not the key. The key is healthy eating. Number two, the USDA dietary guidelines are not spot on for long-term health, and it's different from person to person. Number three, we should not be consuming these unhealthy foods in moderation, just like you shouldn't do heroin in moderation or cocaine in moderation or smoke cigarettes in moderation. Really unhealthy foods should be zero. And then I watched Forks Over Knives, and it blew my mind away to say, hey, listen, man, olive oil is calorie dense, cut it out. Eat beans instead of meat. Dairy is not good for you. Milk is baby growth food. And guess what? Moderation doesn't work. And exercise isn't the key. The key is eating clean. It blew my mind away to see that through this documentary, the good science that supports heart disease prevention and reversible, that we can nearly annihilate heart disease completely. So it completely changed my mindset. I changed my diet, and within 6 months, no change in my exercise, boom, 60 pounds came off. And now I had this crazy passion for lifestyle medicine, heart disease prevention, and reversal. And so what I'm going to go do with this talk here is go through the current state of healthcare in the United States, just to give that as a background as to why we're so screwed up. Do a little quick crash course on nutrition and try to filter out what are the facts about nutrition and longevity and what are the myths. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and then kind of summarize how you can do it and how you can be successful with this all. So, as we know, heart disease has been the #1 killer in America for more than 100 years in a row. Cancer's number 2. That when you look at it in comparison from a perspective like this, heart disease and stroke towers over everything else, such as war, pregnancy and birth complications, murder and suicide. Yet, why isn't it that heart disease and stroke isn't on the news all the time? Why isn't this like front and center? Look how many people are dying. Because it's just become a normal part of our culture to die from heart disease and stroke. In murder and war, there's just a lot more excitement and scariness that goes along with that, right? Yet we have a cure for heart disease. Nearly 600,000 people died last year from heart disease in America, which is about the same as the number of American soldiers that died in all wars in American history combined ever, but it's nearly 100% preventable and even reversible. Why is it that we let so many people die prematurely? 2 words: culture and money. The American culture is in unhealthy foods, and there's no money in healthy people. We have a multi-trillion-dollar food system, a nearly trillion-dollar pharmaceutical industry, and a multi-trillion-dollar healthcare industry, which makes a lot of money off of sick people. There's no money in healthy people, and that's just the reality. And so when you look at how the United States is doing, we spend nearly double what other countries do per capita per person on healthcare. This is the percentage of our economy that is healthcare spending. The United States is that top line there, towering over everybody else in regards to what percentage of our economy is healthcare spending, nearly 20%. With all this money that we're spending on healthcare, you'd think we'd be healthy, right? No. The United States is at the bottom, according to the World Health Organization, for life expectancy. Our children is going to be the first generation that have a shorter lifespan than their parents. It's ridiculous. And it's not from a lack of pills and procedures. It's from diet and lifestyle related factors, right? But I tell America, being unhealthy is not all your fault. Our human instinct, we love sugar, salt, and fat. That's not your fault, right? We like to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. That's called the motivational triad. Not your fault individually. Our culture brings us up to eat a cake when you're 1 year old and then Halloween candy all the time and all this unhealthy processed food and animal-based food, that's not the individual person's fault. The food industry, they market to us, they fund research, they confuse us like crazy. It's really, really off. We need to be feeding people healthier food. That's not the individual person's fault. The government subsidizes the unhealthy foods, and their food pyramids, their My Plates, their USDA dietary guidelines are not spot on, although they're improving. Not the individual person's fault. And the fact that your own healthcare system does not help you lose weight or change your diet or prevent anything because they don't get paid for it, not the individual person's fault. This is why America is so sick. We really need to change our system so the food, pharmaceutical, and healthcare industries stop profiting from the illnesses of good American people and start profiting from promoting good health and prevention of disease. That's what we want. We want a paradigm shift away from pills and to plants, where right now we have an acute care model where you see your doctor really quickly. It's only a doctor that you see. The doctor gets paid for the more procedures and more patients they see. They don't get paid for prevention, so lifestyle is not going to be discussed. We want a new system with long appointments, integrative approach, getting paid for prevention, not paid for productivity, and focus on the cause, the root cause of illness, which relates to diet and lifestyle. So how do we lose weight now? Well, in general, losing weight, there's 3 different ways you can lose weight. The first is just calorie restricting. Now that requires willpower and it's not long-term going to be successful. The second is exercise a lot. And yes, if you exercise a lot, you can do it. About 3,500 calories is 1 pound. Walking a mile is about 100 calories. So walk 35 miles, you'll lose a pound. So 5 miles a day, 7 days a week, you'll lose a pound. But that's a lot. Or why not just change what you eat? Change the type of foods that you eat in order to get foods that are less calorie dense, higher in fiber. And we're going to go through all that. So that's great. So these are the 3 ways you can lose weight. But what's important to think about when you want to find the optimal diet for someone? Well, it has to be a diet that is compatible with long-term health, because there's lots of funky, weird diets that you could lose weight on that are not good for your health in the long term. It needs to be one that's sustainable for you personally, but sustainable for the planet to feed 7 billion people as well. And it needs to be one that's enjoyable, that you can really, really love the food, because if you don't love it, you're not going to stick to it long term. All right, this is what we need. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're trying to lose weight, you need to learn to play guitar. What? What am I talking about here? Well, what I say to people is changing your diet and your lifestyle for long-term health and to lose weight is no different than learning how to play an instrument like a guitar. So if I have a 50-year-old, 300-pound diabetic that just had a heart attack sitting in front of me, and I say, listen, you need to change your diet and lifestyle. Or I say, you need to learn how to play a guitar. And they say, I never played an instrument. I don't know how to read music. I say, I don't care. You need to learn how to play a guitar right now. So what do? They go get one. They take lessons. They read about it. They might go online and watch a documentary on how to play a guitar, right? Just like there's documentaries on healthy eating, forks over knives, there are documentaries on how to play a guitar. But you can't just watch one documentary on how to play a guitar and be suddenly a good guitar player. It doesn't work that way. You got to practice it. You got to work at it. Join a beginner's band, get private lessons. You got to watch a bunch of documentaries. So really engulf yourself in healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, read some books, watch all the documentaries, go to cooking classes, find support groups. You really need to do that. Just like learning the skill of how to play an instrument, you need to take the time and effort to build that skill up. But there's a warning. You cannot do certain things. Now, there are just a million resources out there. PCRM's got a great website, 21-day Kickstart. There's recipes. Check those out. pbnm.org has an awesome resource section. Go for that. But here are the warnings. Don't let somebody else play that guitar for you. What do I mean by that? You need to learn the skill yourself. There's no quick, easy fix. So don't just go out and buy some food, Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, Seattle Sutton, and say, oh, if I eat this food for a year, I'll lose weight and I'll be healthy. Well, that's great. That's like Jenny Craig is sitting over in the corner. She's playing the guitar for you. You're listening. You're losing weight. But guess what's happening? You're not learning any skill. So the second you're done with Jenny Craig, she hands you the guitar and you've learned nothing and you're going to gain all your weight back. You need to learn the skill of a healthy lifestyle. Don't rely on somebody else. Same thing with fad diets. Now, this is where I have to stop and make a statement about the ketogenic diet, which is popular out there. It's really just another formulation of the Atkins type diet. And it is a weight loss diet, and it works really well to lose weight, and it helps people in the short term. In the short term, did I say short term? Short term, because remember, we want a diet that's compatible with long-term health and one that is sustainable. So the research on keto diet shows you can lose weight, your diabetes can improve, blood pressure can improve, cholesterol doesn't change all that much, but is it compatible with long-term health? And the answer is no. There's an increased cardiovascular disease risk, and a lot of people really think that there's an increased cancer risk, and there is no long-living culture in the world ever that follows a ketogenic diet. It just makes no sense with the cholesterol and saturated fat and animal protein in this diet. You can lose weight quick on it. Short term, it's just not long term sustainable. So why even try it? Don't do any of the fad diets. Just like weight loss pills, they are not going to work long term and they have significant risks to them. So just avoid these things. You need to learn the skill yourself of a healthy lifestyle. Once you've learned how that skill, like once you learn how to play a guitar, you know it forever, right? You're not going to lose that skill. You've got it. And the food is phenomenal. Once you learn the skill of how to make the good, clean, healthy food, how to make it taste great and enjoy it, your palate changes, your cravings change, and you're really, really going to truly love it long term. All right, so I just wanted to go through one term, which is body mass index. This is a term you're going to hear a lot. It's not a perfect term. It doesn't really account for muscle and such. You know, big bodybuilders, they might be morbidly obese, but it's mostly muscle that they have. A healthy body mass index, which measures your weight compared to your height. A healthy one's between 18 and a half and 25. Now, less than 20% of America fall in this category. And truly, a lot of those people are around 24. It's great to try to get around to 21 or 22 for your body mass index. That's where you really would want to shoot for. Overweight's between 25 and 30. Greater than 30 on your body mass index is considered obese. Now, you can go on Google and you can search body mass index calculator, put in your height, your weight, and you can get it. Or you could find charts like this where you can just kind of look and see where your body mass index is. So we want to shoot for somewhere right in the middle of that body mass index area. All right. So the diet that you want that's going to help you lose weight long term has to be one that is healthy for you, right? It has to fight cancer. It has to prevent heart disease. And so let's get into this a little bit as to how the proper diet that we recommend, a low fat plant based diet, can fight cancer and heart disease. Well, 13 cancers are associated with being overweight or obese, including breast cancer, pancreas cancer, colon cancer. And it's crazy that when you look at the recommendations from the American Institute of Cancer Research, they're spot on. They say that you need to be as lean as possible without becoming underweight. That's why when people have a BMI of 25 or 24 and then they kind of stop and say, I'm good, that's wonderful. But you do actually get extra benefit from being even leaner. And they do recommend avoiding sugary drinks, eating your fruits and vegetables, whole grains, limiting red meat consumption, and processed meats for sure. So for cancer, a plant-based diet is the way to go. We want to eat cancer-fighting foods, foods that are high in phytonutrients, that have anti-cancer effects, that turn on cancer-fighting genes. And we want to minimize carcinogen exposure. A lot of people say, Doc, when you're eating plant-based foods, aren't you getting all these pesticides? Well, a couple things here. First of all, yes, certain vegetables and fruits are more dirty. Try to buy those in organic, like berries and such. Wash them off. You could wash pesticides off of fruits and vegetables. But animal-based foods, you can't. They're fed frequently GMO, genetically modified crop that has got tons of pesticides that bioaccumulates in the animal, and you can't wash that out of the meat or out of the dairy. You can't wash your milk. You can't wash your cheese, right? So you're going to still be getting lots of pesticides in animal-based foods, maybe even more. And so really eating plant foods is the way you want to go. Organic when you can, but don't make that a requirement. Maybe just get the dirty few fruits and vegetables organic to lessen your pesticides risk. So you want to minimize carcinogen exposure. Now, in regards to heart disease, the world's number one killer, you want a diet that's going to knock your cholesterol numbers down low and that's going to protect your endothelium, protect the artery lining from damage. So let's get into that a little bit. So normally we always think the ideal cholesterol numbers is a total less than 200, but really less than 150 is better. An LDL less than 100, but man, you push it under 70, you're golden. You're essentially never going to get heart disease. Don't worry about HDL, it's more the efficiency or the efflux capacity, and don't worry about the triglycerides. So we want a diet that's going to knock down our total cholesterol and our LDL to nice, crazy low levels. And it's so important. This publication, the Journal of American College of Cardiology, I think puts it really well in this one graph. This shows here your age on the bottom And on the side, your cumulative risk of LDL exposure. On the left side, your cumulative LDL exposure. On the right is your risk of having a heart attack. The typical American has an LDL cholesterol of 125. So that means by the age of 40, they'll have a 1% risk of heart attack. By the age of 60, a 4% risk. And by the age of 80, a 16% risk. Now, say your LDL was even higher, like around 160 from the day you were born. Your risk by age of 40 is going to be 3%. By the age of 60, it's 16%, and it's off the charts by the age of 80. Now, if you can get your LDL level crazy low, say down to 60, by the age of 40, you still wouldn't have a 1% risk. By the age of 60, not a 1% risk. By the age of 80, not even a 1% risk. That's the power of getting your LDL cholesterol down really low. What raises your LDL cholesterol? Eating cholesterol, eating saturated fat, and eating trans fats. So, should we eat any cholesterol at all? According to the USDA dietary guidelines, individuals should eat as little dietary cholesterol as possible while consuming a healthy eating pattern. We need to focus on eating foods that are plant-based. There's no cholesterol in any plant-based food. Is there any safe amount of trans fats, saturated fat, and cholesterol? Well, they did not set an upper limit for how much trans fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol that you could eat, because any intake above 0% of energy increases LDL cholesterol levels. Any intake. So any amount of saturated fat, any amount of dietary cholesterol. So therefore, really, you should try to get that as close to zero as you can. Just like smoking cigarettes, right? They don't say you can smoke 5 cigarettes a day or 2 cigarettes a day. No, they say don't smoke cigarettes. Any cigarette smoking is not good for you. Don't smoke any. All right, so here's how we think about nutrition. To simplify it all for you, there's only 3 food groups. Processed foods, which include all the typical junk food, but it also includes the bad carbohydrates: white flour, white bread, white rice. Remember, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead, right? And so these are considered bad carbohydrates, but not all carbohydrates are bad for you, just these ones. And then oils are highly processed, pure, concentrated fat. The second group is animal-based foods: meat, eggs, dairy, and seafood. And the third is whole, unprocessed, plant-based foods. We really don't want any processed foods. We don't want any animal-based foods. And that will leave us with whole plant foods, what we call a whole food plant-based diet, or a whole food vegan diet, which will be a cholesterol-free diet, extremely low in saturated fat, and full of cancer-fighting phytonutrients, high in fiber. So that's what we want. And according to the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, a 100% plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate for all stages of life. So there's no concerns about any protein deficiencies or any vitamin or mineral deficiency. You're golden as long as you do this the right way, balanced. But this is what America really eats. 63% of calories from added fats, oils, sugars, and refined grains. Only 12% of calories from plant foods. And most of that is potatoes from French fries and tomatoes from ketchup. And that's really sad. 25% animal-based foods. This is not what we should be eating. We really want a plate that looks like this on the right. Half your plate should be fruits and vegetables, a quarter should be legumes, beans, lentils, and a quarter should be whole grains. We should drink only water. We don't want what the government says right now is they have a protein category. We don't want that, because they can include animal protein on there, which will have cholesterol and saturated fat, and we don't want any of that. And they include dairy on there. We need to get dairy off of this government USDA plate. Milk is baby growth food. It has cholesterol and saturated fat. Even low-fat milk is too high in protein and casein and increases IGF-1 and cancer risk. We really don't want it. Milk is baby growth food. We don't want to grow. We're talking about losing weight. We want to shrink, right? So when you look at calorie density, which is a very important concept to understand for weight loss, look at these stomachs. These all have 400 calories in them. All the way on the left is oil. Then you have cheese and you have meat. Eating concentrated processed oil or animal products will give you so many calories in them without filling you up. Then you see potatoes, rice, and beans. Starchy vegetables and whole grains, they can fill you up quite a bit without getting you that many calories. And all the way on the right, the fruits and veggies can completely fill your stomach all the way to the top, and you'll feel full with only 400 calories. This is an important concept of calorie density. Now, let me say straight out, we don't advocate counting calories at all. Let me say that again. We don't advocate counting calories at all. Eat the right foods that are just naturally low in calorie density, high in fiber, and you'll be fine, because fiber has 0 calories in it. Fiber is only found in plant foods, not in animal-based foods, and almost all processed foods are completely stripped of their fiber. Fiber will fill you up, stretch your stomach, make you feel like you're full without giving you any calories. And fiber feeds your microbiome, the little gut bacteria that are so important for your overall health. So that's why eating plant-based foods helps with weight loss. Now, looking at this calorie density chart, we measure calorie density by looking at different foods and seeing how many calories are in them per pound. All the way on the right, we see oil and fat are 4,000 calories per pound. Butter is 2,800, but look at this. Nuts and seeds, a whole plant food, is still 2,800 calories per pound. Sugar is 1,800, cheese 1,600, the bad carbohydrates, white flour, white bread, 1,400, whereas the unrefined carbohydrates, whole grains, average about 500 calories per pound. Fatty protein, beef, pork, chicken, about 1,000 they average, and legumes, beans, lentils, 600. Vegetables down to 100, fruits only 200 calories per pound. So you could see the whole unprocessed plant foods are way off to the left because of their fiber content. Now, let's think about this. Humans eat 3 to 5 pounds of food per day. So let's just say 4 pounds is what the average human eats per day. And let's just say we're shooting for about 2,000 calories a day. And everybody's a little different, but let's just use a nice round number of 2,000. Well, that would mean to maintain your weight, if you're eating 4 pounds a day and 2,000 calories, you want about 500 calories per pound of your food. Well, guess where whole plant foods average in? Right at 500 calories. And so looking at this picture, at this graph here, if you eat any food essentially that's to the right of 500, you're going to be gaining weight unless you eat a ton of fruits and vegetables, which are less than 500 to balance it out. So we want to focus on fruits and vegetables, unrefined carbohydrates. Get your protein from the legumes, which is just barely to the right of 500 and will be canceled out by the low calorie density of fruits and vegetables. And avoid all this stuff over here on the right. Even nuts and seeds should be limited to very small amounts. So this is a great graphic to understand calorie density. Let's break it down just a little bit more. And let's look at junk food. Look at crackers, Kit Kats, potato chips, Cheetos, hot dogs in the 2,000 range of calories per pound, way over that 500 threshold that we want. Popcorn, salami, French fries, nachos, Fruit Loops, Big Macs, bologna, ice cream. There's nothing in any junk food that'll anywhere near hit that 500 mark. Then you look at fatty protein. Bacon and sausage are well over 2,000, or short ribs are well over 2,000. Sausage is at 1,500. Even 85% lean ground beef is 975. Chicken wings, 921. Now, okay, look at this. Boneless, skinless chicken breast, 499 calories per pound. Yes, you can lose weight eating that, and you can lose weight eating eggs. But you're going to be consuming so much cholesterol, saturated fat, animal protein is going to increase your cancer risk. That's not compatible with long-term health. Chicken is the number one source of cholesterol in the American diet, and many surveys the number one source of salt in the American diet. So that's not where you want to get your protein from, even though it is lower in calorie density, and you could technically lose weight on it. Looking at beans and legumes, tofu is 344 calories per pound. Split peas, lentils, kidney beans, black beans are all around that 500 mark. Soy is a little higher because it's higher in fat, and tempeh, fermented soy, is the highest bean calorie density-wise. So limiting those would make a lot of sense. Fish, mackerel's real high, but look at salmon. Everybody thinks salmon's so healthy, and this is, even if you don't fry it in oil, you're just baking it, it's still 920 calories per pound. You don't need to eat fish to get your omega-3s. I always say eating fish to get your omega-3s is no different than eating a Snickers bar to get some peanuts. Yeah, you get peanuts, but you get all this other baggage that comes with it. With salmon, you get cholesterol, saturated fat, mercury, PCBs, all the things you don't want, right? And you look at these other fish, flounder, cod, catfish, they might be low in calorie density. And again, you might be able to lose weight with eating these fish baked. However, again, cholesterol and saturated fat, you don't want to do that. So look at all oils. All oils are calorie dense. All oils are calorie dense. There is no such thing as a healthy oil. They're all highly processed and they have some saturated fat. We don't want oils. And fruits, look at how low they are in calorie densities. The higher fruits like bananas, jackfruits are somewhere in the middle, but avocado, you need to minimize them. They're very higher in fat. And look at coconut, 1,600 calories per pound. Minimize or eliminate coconut when you're on your plant-based diet because of the calorie density. And look at veggies, way, way, way low. But what I wanted to emphasize on the vegetable part is the potato. It gets a bad rap, right? It's only 349 calories per pound. The reason potatoes get such a bad rap is Americans fry them in oil. They put butter, cheese, sour cream all over them. Even sweet potatoes. We put marshmallows and butter all over them, right? Okinawans ate a ton of sweet potatoes, but they weren't putting marshmallows on their sweet potatoes. Potatoes can be very healthy if you keep them fat-free, and this guy is a great example of that. Do you know who this is? This is Penn Jillette. He wrote a book called Presto, How I Make 100 Pounds Disappear. He's a magician, comedian guy, Penn and Teller show, whatever, in Las Vegas. And he actually lost a bunch of weight eating only potatoes. Now, I'm not saying you should do this, but he ate only potatoes and he lost a ton of weight in a short time period. Carbohydrates are not bad for you if they're from whole plant food. So he wants you to say that straight out. Let's say it out loud. Carbohydrates are not bad for you if they're from whole plant foods. It's really hard to take carbohydrates and turn it into fat and store it as fat. You can do it if you overconsume carbohydrates and remain sedentary, but your body wants to take carbohydrates and either burn it as energy or store it as glycogen. It doesn't want to convert it to a completely different molecule of fat. It just doesn't want to do that. That's something called de novo lipogenesis. So what Dr. McDougall always says, which makes sense, is the fat you eat is the fat you wear from your lips to your hips. So eating fat can be easily stored as fat, whereas carbohydrates cannot as much. And here's a great example, because I hear people say all the time, Doc, come on, there's no way this is true. Eating those donuts make me fat. I need to cut out the donuts. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Let's look at a donut. Half the calories in a donut is fat calories, half of it. When you look at it, you see the sugary icing on top and you see the white flour that's in there and you're thinking carbohydrate, 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 but half the calories are fat in a donut. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. So here's a good summary of calorie density on a plant-based diet. You want to go crazy on these items on the top: vegetables and fruits, potatoes, corn, squash, and oats, whole grains, rice and pasta, whole wheat pasta, of course, and beans and legumes. Now, you want to really limit the stuff on the bottom, including avocados and nuts and seeds. You want to limit those quite a bit. Obviously, limit the animal-based foods and limit the processed foods quite a bit. So has this been put into actual scientific rigor? Has it gone through a clinical trial? And yeah, absolutely it has. The BROAD study was a randomized controlled trial using whole food plant-based diet for obesity. And what they really showed is they improved the BMI, cholesterol, and other risk factors compared to the standard control. To the best of their knowledge, this research achieved greater weight loss at 6 and 12 months than any other trial that did not limit energy intake, meaning they didn't restrict calories. They said, eat all you want as long as you're eating the correct category of foods that are whole plant foods that are lower in calorie density. We don't limit the energy intake, go crazy. And they didn't mandate any regular exercise, yet they had a huge amount of weight loss. So what do we want to do? To summarize it all, we know that healthcare is really sick care in America, and we need to be the change. We need to shift to a lifestyle medicine model, which is mostly based on focusing on good nutrition to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. Understand basic weight loss concepts, but don't count your calories. Avoid unhealthy foods completely. Moderation kills. Focus on whole, unprocessed plant-based foods. Minimize the higher fat plant-based foods. Avoid any fad diet, weight loss pill, or any gimmick. There's no quick, easy way. You need to learn the skill yourself of a healthy lifestyle. Get support. There's Facebook groups, there's pcrm.org, pbnm.org resources. Check them all out. But don't focus just on exercise. Stay physically active. Yes, it can help you, but that's not the key. Constantly remind yourself why it is that you want to lose weight. It's always important to focus on the positive. Focus on the great food you can eat. Don't think about the things that you shouldn't be eating, and don't focus on the negatives. So I hope you enjoyed this talk about obesity and weight loss and why it is that we recommend a whole food, plant-based, low-fat diet for health, for longevity. And if you have any questions, please shoot a comment in the section below. Feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more crazy good lifestyle medicine videos in the future, and focus on eating those plants, lose that weight, get your weight down there, and live long and live well. Thanks.